Welcome to this episode of KJN Film Critics. I'm John.
And I'm Nick. Today we'll be looking at two well-known comedy baseball movies, Benchwarmers and The Bad News Bears.
Now, The Bad News Bears is about a baseball-loving millionaire who helps three nerds form a baseball team to compete with the meanest bullies in the Little League. One of the trio becomes the hero of the nerds everywhere until his fans learn that he was once a bully as well.
The Bad News Bears is about a heavy-drinking former minor league baseball player. He is forced into coaching a Little League team that contains a group of unathletic misfits. Together, they have to face some of the most skillful kids of their age in the surrounding area.
So Nick, after watching both movies, personally, I like the Benchwarmers over the Bad News Bears. But what do you think?
I would have to disagree with you, and I would say that I enjoyed Bad News Bears more than the Benchwarmers.
Why is that?
I like how the movie follows the underdog movie formula. This formula contains misfits banded together to try and complete the impossible. However, unlike normal underdog movies, there's a twist in the end where the Bears end up losing in the championship game. I enjoy this because it focuses on that winning isn't the only important thing in life, and playing the game fairly and doing it well is the most important part. They learn lessons not only in baseball but in life as well.
See, I like the Benchwarmers because it also, like the Bad News Bears, it also follows that classic underdog movie formula of a collection of misfits joining together to form a team, and a certain factor results in a roadblock which they would ultimately have to overcome for success. So Gus, Richie, and Clark, being the underdogs of the Benchwarmers, they form a team made by the millionaire Mel in the Little League, and Gus's past of being a bully eventually catches up to him, and they have to overcome that to win the championship. In terms of characters, what'd you like about Bad News Bears?
Okay, so the movie portrays the character of Morris Buttermaker, who is the coach of the Bad News Bears that I previously mentioned above. He is antisocial, and he's also an alcoholic, which just doesn't really help him be included and belong to anything, which is something that he extremely lacks. However, after coaching the kids through numerous games throughout the season, he begins to build a relationship and care for the members of the team. He soon realizes that the team is his own surrogate family and that he is helping to raise them and keep them out of trouble. I enjoyed this in the movie because it gives a heartfelt sentiment in the movie where most of the dialogue is filled with raunchy content and other things that are negatively viewed. The antagonist of this movie is Coach Taylor, who is the head coach of the Yankees. And I personally didn't agree with him or like him at all, just because he is easily loathed by how he treats his teammates and how he focuses on winning as competitiveness as a focal point throughout the movie, and he even threatens the health and safety of his players.
Well, what I liked about the Benchwarmers is that how they created the main character, Gus Matthews, played by Rob Schneider. So the main thing in life that Rob lacks is responsibility. So throughout the movie, you can see he has irresponsibility to fulfill his wife's personal demands. He's irresponsible of handling his past as a bully, but he would later have to handle that situation because of the pressure of the nerds. So I just thought it was pretty funny how the main character and the hero of the nerds was a bully in his past. On top of that, I liked how the managers of the teams that they were facing in the tournament, how they were all antagonists in the movie. They were not fear-inducing, but people they have this vibe that you just loathe and despise of them as characters throughout the movie. So I liked how it was set up as the villains. In terms of the good and bad of your movie, what do you have to say about the Bad News Bears?
I think when looking at Bad News Bears, one of the good things about this film, and you have to keep in mind that this is a remake of the classic film that was shot in 1976. With that being said, some elements from the old version are still instilled in the new version, in the new movie, while others have been cut out. For example, they kept Buttermaker as an alcoholic who coaches a failing team of 12-year-olds who, while the other teams want to kick them out of the league. I think that is important because it heightens the fact that they are the underdogs throughout the movie. Both in the original and the remake, the Bears lose in the championship game, which sends the message that winning isn't the most important thing in life when it comes to baseball, or when it comes to baseball. However, they did change some of the explicit language and the smoking and the drinking of the children. I think they did this because of the regulations of the 21st century and the standards that are set by society of what the norms are in films. I think this is good because the older version was completely inappropriate for children to watch nowadays. The bad aspect in this movie is how recurring bullying seems to show up in the Bad News Bears. Tanner wants to pick a fight with every player on the Yankees, and the Yankees retaliate by putting ketchup in Lucas's hat. So it's just a back and forth during the entire movie. I think I understand why the producers did this, just to have a little bit more of a rivalry between the two teams, but I think it doesn't help show the negative effects that bullying has on people.
What I liked about Benchwarmers, I thought it was good that they had the correlation between Underdogs, the movie of underdogs, and baseball in general as a whole. So you have Gus, Clark, and Richie who pose as underdogs who don't seem like an unlikely bunch to be successful at baseball. However, through passion and determination, they find success on the field. I found this to be a correlation to the game of baseball in general, because in baseball, it's considered a blue-collared sport, meaning you don't have to be a freak athlete to find success like football or basketball, but with hard work and love for the game, you can achieve similar success to those of high talent. And this was a good message for the viewers and kids in general watching the movie, because they can learn that through hard work and determination they can achieve greatness.
So think about this, John. Imagine if this movie was from the point of view of the Yankees. The Yankees would be seen as the protagonists and the Bears would be seen as the antagonists. The audience would be following the journey of the Yankees into their success through the games that they play. The movie would just be like any other sports film, which is centered around success and winning, opposed to having the focus on sportsmanship and gamesmanship.
I agree. I liked how Bad News Bears, like you said, didn't take on the classic success sports movie by taking the point of view of the Yankees. So that was pretty great. In terms of the message, what did you get out of the Bad News Bears?
I think the message that the Bad News Bears is trying to display throughout the movie, as what I've said before, is that sportsmanship and fair play trumps the notion that winning is everything. What would you say the message is of the Benchwarmers?
Similarly to Bad News Bears, I thought that the message was anyone should be included in sport, regardless of abilities or status, and treated fairly with good sportsmanship. So looking at both movies, we can see similarities between messages of fair play, sportsmanship, and just gamesmanship as a whole.
I like the points that you just made. That's all the time that we have. Thanks for tuning in to KJN Sports Critics. On next week's episode, we'll be looking at dramatic baseball movies. Stay tuned.